loves, it's Haley Reese, and today's video is probably going to be one of the most chilling stories that I have told on my channel to date, and that I will probably tell on my channel. Mostly because I'm hoping that I will never hear about or have an experience like this ever again. But this story is absolutely chilling. And the reason that I'm telling it today is because something happened today that brought this whole experience right back to life for all of us and made it so much more real. And so many of you guys have been asking for scary stories, and the minute that this came back to life for me and my family today and we were reminded of it, I just knew I had to tell you guys this story again. So bear in mind it is very eerie and it deals with a very scary subject matter. Before I start this story, I just want to take a little bit of a disclaimer and let you guys know that this story does have a lot to do with religion. It has a lot to do with God and the devil and a very religious subject matter. So if you're going to continue this video, just bear in mind an open mind. I am not asking that you need to believe in any of this. Absolutely you do not. But if you're going to proceed with this video, just bear in mind that it does deal with religious content, and if that is something that offends you, then it's probably not the video for you. I just want to say, if you are new to my channel, hello, my name is Haley. I apologize that we are meeting on such creepy, eerie circumstances, but if you do enjoy today's video and you enjoy some of my other videos, I would really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button. I post a ton of videos and they deal with some really interesting subjects, and I have some really awesome content coming up. So if you do enjoy it and you would like to join our Reese's Pieces family, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. So today's story revolves around my grandma's sister's husband. I know that's a little bit confusing, but he is my great uncle, so to say, as I call my grandma's sister my great aunt. He would be my mom's uncle. And I feel like really in order to understand what he's about to go through, you kind of have to understand him as a person. So I'm not going to name him in this video just because he's a very private person, and I feel like it would be disrespectful to both him and my aunt, who are allowing me to share this story with you guys, to be giving out his information. So I'm gonna leave him nameless, but he is one of the most quiet yet caring individuals I have ever met. He is compassionate, caring, loving, giving. He would literally give you the shirt off of his back. He is just this type of person. And he was incredible friends with my grandfather. For those of you who don't know, my grandpa passed away several years ago to cancer, and I was extremely close with him, and I was and am extremely close with my grandma. And my uncle, who this story is based around, was also extremely close with my grandfather. They would go on vacation together multiple times a year. Anytime either one on either side needed help for each other, they were the first ones there. They had such a nice, incredible bond, and I feel like my grandpa was very lucky to have him as a friend. Even though they were technically family, as my uncle was married to my grandma's sister, my grandpa was married to my grandma, they were technically family, but I feel like my grandpa was very blessed and fortunate to have him as a friend. Now, I don't really know this uncle's religious viewpoints. It's not really something that we've ever talked about. I mean, every time that I've ever went over there, we've talked the regular how's work, how's life, how's this, how's that, and just like regular conversating, so we've never really gotten to the religious talk. But I know that my grandma and her sisters are very religious and they have their own spiritual beliefs, as you guys know from my previous videos with my grandma. But I don't know exactly whether or not he was a firm believer in God or the devil, but I know for a fact he had very strong principles and morals and treated everybody with nothing but love and respect and had an incredible vibration. This story takes place around the time when my grandpa was extremely sick, and this was devastating for all of us because my grandpa, I'm not even just saying this, you guys, I know a lot of people will say this about their deceased loved ones, but my grandpa was the most, I'm gonna get emotional, incredible man in the entire world. He is everything that I would love to be in a person, in the way that he is so selfless and loving and such a man of God without even like preaching God ever. He was never like that. He was just such an example of what a man should be, and what a father should be, and what a grandfather should be, and what a human being should be. And my grandpa was so dearly loved by so many people. When he passed away and we had his celebration of life, it was so crazy because so many people showed up that we had never even met before, who had stories to tell of how my grandpa had changed their lives for the better and how he was so greatly missed. So this needs to be understood by you guys for you to understand how crazy it was when my uncle was presented with the devil. So when my grandpa got sick, it was not a pretty sickness. If any of you know anybody who has cancer or who has died of cancer, you know just how horrifying and disturbing this disease is, and how it just takes somebody who once looked one way and transforms them to something else. And my grandpa had cancer all throughout his body, and he had it all throughout his bones near the end, and he was in so much pain. He couldn't eat, he couldn't drink, he was so sick, so beyond sick, and it was so horrible for anybody who truly loved him to watch him go through this, especially because he was such a pure, kind-hearted man. It was like, it really was the best being taken too soon. So one morning, my uncle gets up for work, and he's an electrician, so he gets up extremely early. He was getting up for work on this day at around 3, and he was leaving at around 3:30. So he gets up for work and he goes out to his car, and it's really dark at this time, as you know, at 3:30 in the morning. It's extremely dark outside. And he opens up his driver's side, gets into his car, and starts the car. And as all the lights in the car turn on, he realizes that he is joined by somebody in the passenger seat. And basically, he recounts this story to his wife, who's my grandma's sister, that it was the devil. And the devil basically confronted him with an offer. And I've heard about, especially being in the music industry and being in the industry that I am, I have heard countless stories about people selling their souls for things, and that the devil will always bargain with you. I'll give you this if you give me this soul. I'll give you that if you give me your soul. And a lot of people have supposedly done it, and I'd never had a personal experience where I'd known anybody who had been either presented with an offer or who had taken them up on the offer. So he basically presents my uncle with this offer. And he says to him, I will spare Barry his life if you give me your soul. And my uncle obviously automatically tells him, go to hell, which I find so funny that he said go to hell, because I asked my grandma, that's really what he said, and it is. And he said, go to hell, I will not give you my soul, Barry's gonna be just fine, like, go away. And I don't know the exact encounters of the entire interaction because he will not speak of this, and I'm going to tell you guys later how we found out that this happened. But basically the encounter was along the lines of, I will give you Barry's life, I will save Barry's life if you give me your soul. Now they say when the devil comes to make an offer with you for something in exchange of your soul, it is the most desperate people. When you hear about the people who have supposedly sold their souls, they usually come from extreme circumstances where they feel backed into a wall, where they have nothing left, in their opinion, to do but to take this offer. And so it made complete sense to me that he would go to my uncle in exchange of his soul for my grandpa's life, because my uncle loved my grandpa so dearly, and it was eating at him, absolutely eating at him, that he was dying. So we didn't hear about any of this while my grandpa was dying. He never spoke of it to anyone, not even his own wife. But about a week later, my grandfather passed away. And I guess my uncle was carrying such tremendous guilt, which is crazy to me because he passed away because it was his time. He didn't pass away because of any sort of deal with the devil, but my uncle was carrying so much guilt, thinking I could have saved him, I could have saved him. But on the other hand, he's like, but I wasn't gonna give my soul for this. I wasn't gonna give him my soul for Barry's life. So I guess my uncle carried this guilt for quite some time, and eventually he couldn't carry it anymore. He physically could not carry the guilt of thinking that there was more that he could have done to save my grandpa. And so he tells his wife, which is my grandma's sister, and he tells her basically the exact interaction that I've told you along those lines. And she's like, well, I'm gonna tell Candace, which is my grandma. And he said, you can tell her, but I never want to speak of this ever again. I have told you, and that's it for me. He was so terrified that he couldn't even tell my grandma herself. He couldn't even get it out to tell another single soul. He could only tell his own wife. So the next time that my grandma sees her sister, she tells her, and my grandma breaks down crying. And my grandma tells her, the devil is tricky. He would have tricked him. It wouldn't have been what he thought it was. And nothing is worth giving your soul to the devil. Barry would not have ever wanted that. Barry was such a believer in God and angels and goodness in life, although he never spoke of it as much as we did ever. He was more quiet and reserved than me and my grandma were. He was such a believer, he would have never wanted that. If it was his time, it was his time. And so she told her sister to tell him, like, obviously, never feel guilty for that. Like, it would have been a trick. So I heard this story obviously through my grandma and my mom, who had conversated. I didn't hear it until a few years ago because I was only 13 when my grandpa passed away, maybe 14 at most, but I was around 13, 14 years old. They didn't want to scare me with that. So I only found out maybe when I was 17, so a good couple of years ago, but that's when I found out. And I had heard it through two sources. So I heard it straight from my grandma, who had heard it straight from her sister, who had heard it from her husband. So I don't know the exact interaction word for word to share with you guys, but that is the gist of what happened. Now, we had forgotten all about this, or at least tried to, because I mean, the fact that someone that we love truly believes that the devil sat in his front seat of his car and offered a deal in exchange of my grandpa's saving of his life. We tried to really just like move on and let go of that and just pray and know that my grandpa's in the best hands, and the best thing that my uncle could have done was to not do that. It wasn't until today, and this is so terrifying and chilling and validating of what he said. It honestly shakes me up. But today my mom calls me and she tells me that last night her boyfriend, who by the way was not in the picture at this time that any of these stories were told. We have not talked about it. The last time I think any of us talked about it was when I was like 17 years old, and we all talked about it then. We have not talked about it, especially since she started dating this guy. She tells me that he had a dream last night, and my grandpa came through the dream, and my grandpa had a message for me. And my grandpa was telling him all these things, which I'm not going to share all of them with you guys. But basically he said that he is well in heaven, he is happy in heaven, and things are good, and that I need to know that he's watching out for me, and he's there, and he's with God. And then he says, tell Candace to tell her sister that her husband did the right thing, that he is so happy that he didn't take the deal from the devil. I'm starting to like sweat talking about this. It's honestly giving me such a panic attack. It also doesn't help that I'm telling this like when it's dark out and the sun just went down, and my only source of light is my ring light in front of me, so that doesn't help, and it's really giving me like honest anxiety. But he asked my mom about it, and he mentioned my uncle's name, and he says, did the devil contact? And my mom said she went white as a ghost. She felt sick to her stomach because there was no way that he could have known about this. And for him to come through and say that my grandpa gave this message and said that my uncle did the right thing, it's just like, it's mind-blowing, and it makes what my uncle said so real. And not that we didn't think it was real, it's just, it's so easy to think like, you know, it was early in the morning. Could he have been, you know, imagining things? Could he have been so upset and lack of sleep from being so worried about my grandpa that he just thought this up? I don't know, but hearing this all these years later, when we haven't talked about it for years, from somebody who wasn't even in the family at that time, just really gives me complete goosebumps. Honestly, you guys, at the end of the day, it comes back to what I tell you all the time. Every emotion, every being, every thought has a contrary to it. There are opposites and opposing factors to everything in life. If you believe in God, you must believe in the devil. If you believe in angels, you must believe in demons. If you believe in good people, you must believe that there are bad people. There are opposing factors to everything. But we need to choose to be the good. What I take from this is the validation that there's always going to be temptation in times of struggle, in times of sadness and fear and scary situations in life, and we always need to choose what's right, even if it's so tempting or it's playing with your emotions. You need to try to choose what is right. I'm not telling you guys this story to scare you. I'm telling you this because it goes to show that with every good thing that exists that I truly do believe in, there are bad things that exist. And we need to choose to spread a message of love and light and positivity. And we also need to realize that these things are real and they're not to be joked about, and that I guess the devil really does try to make deals with people. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I know it's really creepy and scary, and it kind of leaves you with like very scary thoughts, and that's not my intention, but you guys wanted to hear a really creepy story. And on the contrary, a positive story, because my grandpa did come through and he said that he's with God and in light, and he's here with me, and I think that's a really wonderful thing. If you guys enjoyed today's story, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. I post a ton of videos. They're not all as creepy as this one, and I would really appreciate it if you do enjoy my videos, that you do click that subscribe button. We hit 40,000. Oh my god, I just screamed. Sorry. If you have headphones, I'm so sorry. We hit 40,000. Like, my mind is blown, you guys. I am so thankful. I love you all so much. This is like such an honor to have this family growing, truly from the bottom of my heart. Like, I couldn't be more appreciative, and I could not love each and every one of you more than I do right now, truly. And if you do enjoy today's video, please give this video a big thumbs up. Like I always say, it makes my heart super happy when you do that, and I really do appreciate it, so please do that. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until next time, love you!